Cheapest versus most expensive. In today's video we compare two rigs, one costing £1,000 and one costing £10,000. So let the battle commence and let's get started. Hey guys, welcome back to Squealing Pig Guitars, the home of luxury shred machines here in Nottingham, England. My name is Keightley, and today we're doing a video that I've been wanting to make for years. We're going to be comparing a cheap rig going up to the budget of £1,000, and we're going to be comparing it with a very expensive rig going up to the price of £10,000. This rig will include electric guitar, amplifier, and effects pedals. So for our cheap rig, we'll be using a Washburn Hawk guitar, which is kind of a guitar that was made during the 70s and 80s and is replicating a sort of double cut Les Paul shape. So this guitar retails for about $599, and surprisingly it actually has a neck-through construction. It has two pickups, and it's obviously kind of replicating a DC kind of Les Paul type guitar. From what we can see, these guitars were made in the 70s and the 80s, and we don't really have much information on this guitar. We just have it. We don't have it for sale. It's just a second-hand guitar that we have lying about in the shop. So we thought we'd use that as the cheap guitar for today. We're going to pair that with a Roland VGA 5 combo amp. These amps run for about 230 quid on the second-hand market, and it's basically a very early example of a modelling amp. It works similar to like a Line 6 Spider, so you have all your modelling amps on the left-hand side. You can pick the cab size, it has speaker emulation, and all the effects that you need. In the room, this Roland actually has a really cool sound, and I'd recommend any guitarist that's on a budget to get a modelling amp, as you have all the effects as well as amplifiers. And especially in today's age, you can get so many amazing modelling amps. One of my first rigs was a Boss ME25, which was like a multi-effects unit that had amp COSM technology in it, just like this Roland. And I got a really good sound out of that. I actually gigged with that for quite a few years. So it just goes to show you don't have to necessarily spend loads of money on an amp to get a really good sound. But that being said, let's have a look at our most expensive rig. So the guitar we're going to be using for this is an absolute beauty. We have a Murphy-aged Gibson Custom 70th anniversary 58 reissue guitar, and this is in a lovely tobacco burst. This guitar just screams that kind of Slash Joe Perry 59 burst energy, and it actually has a hand-picked top, hence why it's quite flamey. 58s tend to be quite plain tops. The light aging is very tasteful in this guitar. You've only got a few dents on the back, but it's mainly just lacquer checking and a little bit of dullness to the finish. The binding is slightly ambered over as well, which looks really nice because it's been a smoky bar for years. So for this amazing Gibson custom guitar, it costs £5,999, and obviously these prices fluctuate all the time, but that's what we can kind of see on the second-hand market online. And we're going to be pairing that with a Marshall Silver Jubilee 100-watt head going into a 412 cabinet, which is sitting just below this 212. We're also going to be using a Line 6 Helix for the effects side, which come in at about £1,000. So the amplifier head, £1,000. The cab's £500, and obviously the Helix is about £1,000. We're coming in just underneath our budget, around £8,500 for this rig. So let's see how they both sound. that we've heard the rigs, let's talk about how I've set both of these amps. So on the Roland, I've gone for a British combo sound to try and replicate the Marshall sound. On the speaker emulation, I've gone for 412s to obviously mimic what I've got with the Marshall. I had to run the gain pretty high to replicate the Marshall tone. I was using a tube screamer into the Marshall, whereas obviously I don't have the budget for that with the Roland amp, so I'm just using a compressor on the Roland, which is built in to the amp. I'm also using some onboard reverb that is delivered on the VGA. On the Washburn, the pickup sounded slightly single coily. I don't know if there's a problem with the electronics or if it's just because it's so old that the wax is worn off the swing, but they had a very thin sound, so I tried to add a bit more bass then onto the Roland amp to compensate for this. In terms of playability, the Washburn has definitely seen better days. It wasn't set up to the best, there was a lot of buzzing, but I did my best to play it, and it definitely wasn't as much of a joy to play it as the Gibson. But in terms of the tone that I got, I wasn't disappointed. It was a very usable rig, and this is important to note, you don't need loads of money to play guitar. You should be able to play with a cheaper rig and still get a decent sound. Yes, the sound isn't the best sound in the world, but in the mix, it doesn't necessarily sound worse than the Gibson and Marshall rig. It just sounds different. So for the Marshall settings, obviously it's very simple to kind of set up a Marshall head. I'm using the 100 watt setting, so it was very loud in the room. I'm using the rhythm clip on this amp, which is where you pull out the first knob, and obviously that allows you to have that gain channel. For the clean stuff, I pushed that in, and we essentially got the clean channel. I'm running the output master around 6, so it was very, very loud in the room, but I wanted to get that natural tube distortion. I set the EQ for the Roland and the Marshall very similarly. I tend to boost the mid, boost the treble, and back off the bass, so I get a nice cutting sound, and then in post I'll add compression and maybe bass frequency if I need it, if I think it sounds too thin. So that's how I set the Marshall, and then on the Line 6 Helix I had a tube screamer patch for the lead lines. So that's how I set up both of these rigs. Now let's do a tone comparison and hear both guitars side by side. So guys, what are my final thoughts on today's video? Well, first off, I love doing videos like this. I think it's very interesting to take two very contrasting budgets and try and make a good rig. So what really impressed me from this rig is the versatility of this Roland amplifier. I'd be more than happy to have this amp and teach with it, do gigs with it. It sounds incredible, and with the mic, especially the listening back whilst I was mixing this video, the audio actually sounds really good. I'm really happy with the tone that I got from this, especially the British combo setting with the 412 speakers. Got nice reverb, got all the effects you'd like. It's a very good package for 230 quid. Arguably, there's a lot better amps that you could get these days, like the Boss Katana, or the Positive Grid stuff that will probably get you a better digital sound. In terms of what we had in the shop at the moment, the Roland was absolutely incredible. Unfortunately, the Roland and the Washburn aren't for sale on our website. These are just, this is just gear that we have at the shop that we kind of keep. But I was really impressed with the Roland. As I mentioned with the vintage Washburn, obviously this guitar has seen better days. It was a little bit hard to play, but it looks really cool, and I love the kind of old school 80s double cut with the neck through construction and all the layering of the different woods. It was an incredible looking guitar. It didn't play well at all, if I'm being honest. It needs a good setup with string change and probably some new pickups. But for this video, I think it did the job, and it still created a decent sound. Do you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't the most incredible sound, I won't lie to you guys, and obviously you can let me know in the comment section below what you think. But it was a decent enough sound to get by. And this begs the question that you don't need loads of money to be able to play guitar. The more important thing is how you play and obviously how you dial in tone. If you have a good ear for frequency and how guitar should sound, then you can make any amplifier and guitar sound good, in my opinion. But that being said, let's compare it with the most expensive rig. Obviously, this Gibson Les Paul played amazingly. It's right up my street in terms of feel and tone. I feel very comfortable on a 58 Reissue, and this guitar was exceptional. I don't have any criticisms. Marshall amplifiers are amazing. This was actually my own personal Silver Jubilee, so again, I'm very comfortable with this amp. I think the sound was exactly what I heard in my head. The only problem with a Silver Jubilee is the clean channels are a little bit anemic sounding. Obviously, it doesn't have as much like balls as like a Vox or a Fender, which I tend to prefer for clean stuff now. But in terms of the gain channel, it just sounds incredible. You can get that slash tone if you want. Obviously, you can get a little bit more of a metal sound, as the EQ on this amplifier is really good and very responsive. Probably the most responsive EQ on any Marshall amp that I've tried. So I'd really recommend trying one of these out. If you want something for home use, they do a mini, like I think it's 20 or 30 watt head version of the Silver Jubilee, which is a really good amp as well. So I'd definitely try one of them out if you're wanting the Silver Jubilee tone, but on a lower volume. The cab that I was using today was a JCM 800 cab, and I bought this cab years ago. I think it's from like the 80s. It's not in the best nick anymore, but again, it sounded really good and had a really nice kind of resonance in the room. So the results of this test is kind of what you'd expect. I preferred playing the £10,000 rig, but what I've learned is that you don't need £10,000 in order to get a good sound. The Roland amp sounded incredible in this demo, and that's definitely the winner of today's video in terms of how it performed for that price. But most importantly, guys, let me know in the comment section below, what do you think of these two rigs? Do you prefer the £10,000 ones or the £1,000 one? And let me know in the comment section below, what do you use in your rig? Which guitar, what effects, what amplifiers? I'm really interested to know, and we'll definitely do another version of this video in the future. Make sure to like if you enjoyed today's video and subscribe for more content. But thank you so much for watching Squealing Pig Guitars, and I'll see you tomorrow for another video. But until then, keep rocking guys, I'll see you soon.